Expectations in the land as the new federal cabinet is now in place. A new cabinet that must tackle Nigeria's several problems. President Tinubu urged the ministers to set aside regional biases and sentiments and fulfill their responsibilities to Nigerians. The swearing-in comes nearly 3 months after Tinubu took office. State House correspondent Adesua Omoran reports.
The banquet hall of the presidential villa is abuzz with anticipation as ministers designate get set to be inaugurated by President Bola Tinubu. Adjudged the largest cabinet in Nigeria's recent political history, President Tinubu's ministers designate take their oath of office. In 9 batches, totaling 45 individuals, they pledge their unwavering allegiance to the nation. The charge by the president is clear: accelerate the nation's development by transcending regional biases and sentiments.
You are not a minister of a particular state, colony, region, or ethnic nationality. You are a minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. With the inauguration of ministers today, we are about to accelerate our governing efforts to move forward, realizing our best aspiration for Nigeria. It's all about a great team, and I believe we have them here.
The response from the newly inaugurated ministers was palpable, from the graceful courtesy exhibited by female ministers to the triumphant gesture of the groundbreaking appointment of the inaugural FCT Indigenous Minister. And not forgetting the enthusiastic applause that filled the room as the former governor of Rivers State, now the FCT minister, was acknowledged. With each oath taken, a promise was made to serve the nation diligently, to prioritize the welfare of citizens, and to ensure the government's commitment to transparency, accountability, and progress. A clarion call the president further emphasizes.
Your assignment began immediately. As your country honors you today, by this call to service, you must each work to make yourselves worthy in the eyes of God and all our nation's people. Your highest obligation is to restore public faith in government so that our people can once again believe that the right hands the government can show we are in this boat, even if it's a vehicle, and I am the driver. The entire Nigerians are behind, sitting and watching as you and I navigate this vehicle.
With dwindling government revenues and the mounting demands of a competitive socio-economic landscape, undoubtedly, tough times lie ahead. But what can Nigerians expect from this cabinet?
My ministry caters to private sector, so we're going to grow the small and medium-scale industries, the micro enterprises, and also enable businesses to grow, improve trade relations with other countries, see improvement in our exports. Basically, that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Each ministry has a role to play. Coming to my ministry, we have to ensure that the rule of law, reform agenda of Mr. President keys appropriately into this area. And that is number one thing. Without rule of law, which simply means follow the rules, follow the regulations, nothing meaningful can be done. It is a veritable platform or foundation upon which development, meaningful development, can be anchored.
Despite criticisms, President Tinubu says his appointments are rooted in merit, restating his commitment to having the brightest minds lead the government. President Bola Tinubu's vehicle analogy serves as a powerful reminder of the collective effort in governance. With the ministers joining him in taking the wheel of governance today, the nation anticipates a journey towards progress, unity, and prosperity. From the presidential villa, Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
And in exclusive interviews with Arise News, some of the ministers conveyed a mix of eagerness and appreciation for the new jobs. They spoke about the weighty responsibility of safeguarding the administration's dedication to the renewed hope agenda, while Dele Alake positioned himself as the president's best choice to lead the Solid Minerals Ministry. The woman heading the Labour Ministry or Ministry of Labour for State, Nkirika Onyejiocha, underscored the significance of reforms and collaboration.
My portfolio has been the major shocker in this entire cabinet, assignment of portfolios and all of that. However, I can tell you authoritatively, it's deliberate. My portfolio is deliberate. Now, everybody knows, at least those who have an analytical mind and who are following global trends in economic development, hydrocarbons are going down. Oil, petroleum is going down globally in the economic sector. Now people are moving away from those areas. Now you have electric cars, you have alternative fuel, you have gas, you have everything, which means our over-reliance on oil is going to be detrimental to the growth of the Nigerian economy moving forward. So what is the next bet? It is solid minerals. That's the next oil of Nigeria. Now, with this critical sector in mind, who will the president put there? The person he trusts most. The person who has a passion in his own estimation, who has a sense of responsibility, the knowledge, the vision, the courage to drive that sector and harness those critical resources for the benefit of Nigeria. And that's why I'm here.
Great. So what should Nigerians be expecting from your ministry?
The Nigerians should be expecting a departure from the norm. Everybody knows what's been happening in that solid mineral sector of the economy. It's been frittered away. Nigeria has been shortchanged. We've been receiving the shorter end of the stick. There is going to be a critical departure from that norm. But I'm not going to reveal the strategies and tactics right now.
To serve one's country is a special opportunity, it's a special duty. And in a country of about 220 million people, brilliance is not enough. So I feel extremely privileged and grateful to Mr. President.
What should we be expecting from you?
A whole lot. A society where technology can lift us to where we should be ideally. And a society where government services becomes a lot more empathetic. And you see, that's what Mr. President has been talking about.
Tourism is about all of us, about our looks, our behavior, what we have to offer, what we have to offer internally and what our externals are expecting to offer. And it's going to involve every single person from the top to the bottom. And we can all do it. And we'll seek everyone. We're going to start seeking everyone's support.
We are going to bring legislative experience to bear, looking at the labor laws and to make sure that there are no infractions anymore. Because over the years I've had this experience that it's not about churning out laws, it's about implementation. So you're going to see implementation of Nigerian laws that have been passed over the years, starting from the quota system that has made our youth to be outside employment, because most people come here through their company, they bring their people and they employ their people, and their people are not checking them. And so we are going to ask for our quota system. Look at our quota system and ask for our quota for our Nigerian youth, because basically we are going to make sure that our youth are removed from the forest and from the streets.
Well, there you have it. The ministers now fully inaugurated, sworn their oaths of office, and they've gone to work immediately. Kay, your thoughts on this?
Well, it's good to see them getting ready and getting out there. I mean, the biggest news, I guess, will be the former Governor Wike and his game that he's already started without wasting any time. At the moment he got into office, he had to remind the journalists that he's hungry and he wants to go eat. And that was an interesting one. But I am hoping that, as he said, he will follow the roadmap. There will be no reason for anybody to think there are underhand tactics in the way he will handle the so-called demolition that he wants to do in Abuja. I don't think what Abuja needs is demolition everywhere. It's a case of reviewing the roadmap and making sure that things are done properly. Follow due procedure, follow processes, and do what is expected of you. But if your first agenda is just demolition, you want to break down houses, then there are challenges and there are issues. And Mr. President must make sure he cautions that, look, this is not the role of an emperor. This is the role of a minister of a particular state or a sub-state within Nigeria. Now, moving on to the next one is digital economy. That is Bosun Tijani. I'm really excited about what he's about to do. I think one of the things he has to think about very seriously is the e-government agenda for this government. There are so many ministries in Nigeria that don't even have a website. They don't have a functional website in some cases. He has to look at this. I remember when I moved to the United Kingdom way back in 1993. By the time Prime Minister Tony Blair became the Prime Minister, he made sure that there was e-government. He made sure that the agenda changed way back in the 1990s. And he ensured that every activity of government is accessible online. If you want planning permission, you can sit in your house and go on a computer system. You put in the map, the design for your property, and you put in the details, and they will approve it without you going to the Ministry of Planning or Department for Planning. This should happen in Nigeria today. This is 21st century. It's not all about programming and anything else. It's about making sure that we have functional government accessible to everybody without them having to go there. And that is one of the things that I think Bosun has to do. So very quickly, I must add that blue economy is an area that should be generating billions and billions and billions of naira for Nigeria. And I hope that Minister Oyetola will make sure he will speak with the experts. Get the roadmap for blue economy. This is an area that is a money spinner. We have to do it. And finally, Dele Alake, my dear brother, he has to make sure that he looks after what is called our mineral, solid mineral, and he has to make sure that that roadmap is done very quickly and implemented. He has to make Nigeria proud. He has said it, that he's the special one, just like Mourinho. That's why the president has chosen him to go into that ministry. So he has to prove that he's truly the special one.
All right. So kudos and congratulations to all the ministers. I say kudos in advance because I know at some point they will achieve some milestone. Kudos to them in advance. I wish them well. But also with kudos also comes criticism to be able to balance things out. And I'll pick out the first criticism. Please, somebody should tell Governor Wike that this is not Rivers State again. That you are now a minister of the Federal Republic. This is not the time to start threatening people as regards their homes and say if they don't have CFO, you'll revoke it. How about you say, what can we do to perfect and digitize the CFO system? Concerning homes that don't have their proper documentation in this country, I have always posited that can't we use blockchain to make the process seamless? We can use blockchain technology to be able to store the documentation so people can have access to it anyway. So how about innovations rather than saying people that don't just have CFOs? Is not having CFOs their own free will or the fact that there's a decadent system of issuance of things like this? We're having a lot of land problems, land grabbing problems in Abuja. How are you going to ameliorate that? How are you going to work as regards the dichotomy between AMAC and the FCT authority? Saw what happened recently in Trademore Estates. And there was a dichotomy as regards who even owns the land. And mortgage schemes and all of that. So how about you talking about fixing that rather than talking tough and say, oh, we're going to deal with people? How about you talking about the rights of the indigenous people in Abuja? Those are the things we expect you to talk about. As FCT minister, your KPIs are clear. Make the FCT a better place. This is the time you need to be wiki for yourself, not El Rufai like you say. Some people say you want to be El Rufai and all of that. No, 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 no. Be your own self. Do the very best you can. In consonance with the Abuja master plan. How about us reawakening the hitherto rail line that should be able to take people to the airports from Abuja, but people have not used that internal rail before. How about expanding the rail network? For other ministries, the solid minerals, I wish Mr. Dele Alake well, and I want him to succeed. Because the solid mineral sector can open a vista of new opportunities for us. Lithium, name it, any mineral in many quantities. But if you heard the other day, Mr. Femi Falana was talking about the fact that about 9 to 10 billion US dollars are taken away in solid mineral deposits in this country, unaccounted for in this country. We've all heard tales of how people take our gold away through jets out of Zamfara. We also know how this solid mineral sector is feeding into the crime and the violence going on in states like Zamfara and the likes. There's a big solid mineral prospecting. Can we harmonize all of them to make people work effectively in that area? So his work is cut out for him. And I wish him a lot of success. Mr. Wale Edu, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. You're coming in at a time where the Nigerian economy has been bastardized by the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Tinubu too has made some very iffy decisions, I must say. Very unclear decisions, very nebulous decisions. The retail market is as good as gone. I'll be sharing this during the business update. I had a dossier as regards what happened to GSK this morning. How can the market prospect of a company dwindle from about £250 million business in Nigeria to £50 million, and see how much the devaluation has hurt businesses even more? The retail sector is dead as we speak in Nigeria. Retailers know what is going on. Cost of doing business, capitalization over 60%, revenue has dropped. Purchasing power parity dropping by the day. These are the things you will do. And you will make your mistake, but also when you make your successes, we will applaud you here, Mr. Wale Edu, because we want Nigeria to succeed. Blue economy, there's so much we can make in the maritime economy. And Mr. Oyetola, easy lies the head that wears the crown. You need to be able to coalesce efforts together. And other sectors, you know, out there. The Niger Delta too needs a lot of development. Probably when we get in the Niger Delta minister, and when the Niger Delta minister will be able to focus on that level of development. The Niger Delta, we've been talking about this since the 60s, since we started mining out of Oloibiri in 56, oil. And that area has not been developed. And let's also see who becomes NDDC chairman. And probably at some point, we need to give executive powers to the NDDC chairman too. We wish them well. But let us also remind them uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. When we criticize you, remember it's because we love you. And when we praise you, remember it's because we're cheering for Nigeria. God bless you all.
Absolutely. Talking about uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. Yesterday, the ministers were sworn in and inaugurated, and it was, for many of them, their first day in office. One of the things we pointed out, even in that video, that was that the report by Adeso Omoran, was the jubilation and joy of each of the ministers, the hope of serving their nation. Whilst that is not out of place, some of the receptions held afterwards look like wedding receptions, a very big party. And you wonder if these ministers understand what lays ahead of them. In fact, what many would have thought would be get to work immediately and almost ask yourself, who sent me here? Because the work is immense indeed. Nigeria is at a very critical position. We have debt issues like Reuters had identified yesterday. A number of the ministries are faced with challenges. There's no one saying they shouldn't celebrate, but what we're saying is that we hope that ministers understand the weight of governance and the weight that lies ahead of them. Instead, celebration should be kept till after the tenure and should be done if it's deserving, if they have successfully been able to manage their ministry. Again, congratulations to them. It would evoke excitement for anyone who wants to take on that position, but also very importantly, this is a call to service, not a call to enjoyment, not a call to enrich oneself, not a show of, not a show of aggrandizement, if I could use that word, but to show that you have been called to serve. I think we need to emphasize that again and again, especially when people are called to public service. Now, a lot of attention has been put on, or spotlight has been put on the major ministries, power, finance, humanitarian, and I would like us to just look at a few of what some would consider not very key, but still quite important in the renewed hope agenda. One of which a number of people haven't spoken quite, for me, education, health. And yesterday, each of these ministers had an opportunity to share some of their ideas, to set agendas for themselves, some of the KPIs, some of their vision for their ministry. And I thought it was quite instructive because we now go back to the president's manifesto, because these are the men and women who are going to be driving the agenda and the plans of the president very specifically under the ministry. So for the Minister of Education, he's mentioned that he's going to ensure that there's attention placed on basic education. I hope he'll also look into literacy challenge that we're having. We have people who are graduating from or finishing secondary school and are not able to read and write properly. This is a disaster waiting to happen if this isn't arrested. The quality of education that we have currently. Also, he's going to have to manage the incessant strike actions, especially at tertiary level. These are areas that must, hopefully, would be addressed under this administration. Another sector is health. Professor Ali Pate comes with a wealth of experience. And he talked about the fact that he was also going to look at primary health care in Nigeria. And when we look at primary health care, you're also looking at quality access to health. Every Nigerian should have an opportunity to quality health, especially at primary level. Let's look at our primary healthcare centers again. Let us, again, restore the glory of the Nigerian healthcare sector. He said that he was going to make going abroad medical tourism less attractive by investing in the healthcare in Nigeria. That is important. He's had international experience, so we're hoping he'll bring that to bear under his ministry. We also look at foreign affairs. The Foreign Affairs Minister, Ambassador Yusuf Taga, comes at a time when Nigeria is in a precarious situation when it comes to dealing with our international our partners, especially with the Niger crisis. We talked about the fact that the president ought to get proper advice when it comes to dealing, especially on international levels. He has this already on his table. He gets to go to work straight. Also, part of what he had spoken about was the welfare of Nigerian citizens abroad. And this should sound like good news to our diasporan community, because in the past we've talked about how embassies abroad are, how Nigerians abroad are looked after, or perhaps their welfare. When you compare us to other countries around the world, it's an opportunity for him not just to project Nigeria in the best light, but to ensure that our diasporan community who remit and contribute significantly to our GDP are also well looked after, and the glory of Nigeria, even on the international scene, is brought to bear. The Minister of Agriculture as well and Food Security. The President, earlier in his administration, had declared a state of emergency with regards to food security. So he has his work cut out for him. And bear in mind that the Ministry of Agriculture has the potential to create jobs for Nigerians, which is part of the president's mandate under this administration. So his work is also cut out for him. Let us hope that the agricultural sector would bring more revenue for Nigeria and would improve export opportunities for us as a nation. So many other ministries to look at beyond the major ones that have been talked about, and every single one must work in order for this renewed hope agenda to come alive and thrive. I trust that the president will keep them on their toes, and will hopefully, he said that if anyone doesn't perform in veiled terms, they would be moved. I hope that the reshuffling that had happened, no one will sit still, do nothing, and continue his tenure. The president will hold them to account, as Nigerians will obviously do as well. Again, congratulations. It's time to get to work. Our next story, Vice President Kashim Shettima has departed Abuja for Johannesburg, South Africa, to represent President Bola Tinubu at the 15th BRICS Summit. Although Nigeria is not a member, the summit will focus on trade, investment, sustainable development, and global governance reform. Notable leaders, including Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the UN Secretary General, and the chairperson of the African Union Commission, are expected to attend. BRICS is comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It is said to constitute 42% of the world's population, 23% of the global economy, and 18% of global trade. Well, Kay, your take on this?
Well, I guess the Vice President has his agenda cut out for him. He has to go in there and make sure that he does not waste time in making the members of BRICS and other leaders who are attending to realize that this is the largest economy in Africa. This is the largest nation, a black nation on earth. And he has to make sure that they know this and they realize this and they're willing to work with Nigeria. They're willing to bring investment to Nigeria, that he tells them what we have capacity to do on the continent of Africa and the level of influence Nigeria can have in the international community. And he has to make it look like, yes, we're really ready to do business and we're open for business. And then he has to network. This is not time for him to just go and pump fists and shake hands and come back with almost nothing. He has to come back with business. I hope he's doing what some other former presidents have done in the past. He's going there with a number of business leaders because they have to go and do business. When they come back from a meeting like this, there's got to be millions or billions of dollars or naira coming back with them, because in negotiating deals, that's the kind of place that you go to and you negotiate deals. So I hope he's doing the right thing and he will come back with something sizable, chunky, that we can say is the benefit of attending that meeting. Not just go for the sake of attending a meeting like that and come back with nothing.
So for me, it's not that we don't get exposure to go to a lot of these international parties a lot. We go to a lot of them. But have you ever asked, why is it that it doesn't turn around into investments? Couple of reasons. Number one, because Ralph Waldo Emerson said, what you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you say. So when we go for this top investment summit abroad and we posture like we want investment, but we come back here, we don't fix our judiciary, for instance. And I say that, and that's why I say again, all eyes on the judiciary. Because you see, extrapolate that to the business sector. To get a court case or a civil business dispute settled, and you go through arbitration, you know the hell you go through in this country. To get a business settlement done is difficult. Secondly, the insecurity. Thirdly, the dynamics of our economy. That a lot of businesses are taking a deep erosion as regards their positions now, with many of our policies. So when you have all of this, you can go and talk at the BRICS summit, but it will not translate to business. And except we do what is right and we don't play politics with our economy and call a spade, we'll never move forward. Because the countries in BRICS will also think of their interests. And you saw what they did recently. They coalesced around Russia. While the war started, India was buying a lot of Russian oil. China too coalesced around them. South Africa did the same for them. The question is, how can we build a beautiful bride of the business world? We can only do this by internalizing those lessons we ought to learn. That's why, as we've sworn in new ministers, please, we can't have another regime where the CBN governor is saying something, the finance minister is saying another thing. Too much double speak in our economy. And the world is watching. And that's why they don't take us serious. But Nigeria, I know, when we get our acts together, we'll rise and become the giants we truly are.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm hoping this administration will continue from the past administration is the ease of doing business, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, which had the task of ensuring that Nigeria is more friendly to investors and for doing business as well. The Secretariat still exists, and the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment will play a key role in this. And we saw her, Mrs. Doris Uzoka Anite speak to Adesuwa earlier on as we talked about the ministerial inauguration yesterday. They have their work cut out for them because, as you mentioned, Rufai, if we're going to countries or summits like this with the hope of attracting investment, foreign investment, we must ensure that we have an enabling environment to absorb these investments. Now, the BRICS summit, this taking place this year in South Africa, the theme is actually around BRICS and Africa, and a few things are going to be top on the agenda. One of such is the possible expansion of BRICS. As you know, I'd mentioned earlier on, the 5 countries that make up BRICS nation with the acronym BRICS. They're looking to hopefully open their doors to other African countries and other countries from around the world. Now, for the member nations, the founding members of BRICS, they are a bit torn as to whether to accept more people. For countries like China, they are open to it so as to consolidate them, this war between America and themselves as a superpower. So they're hopefully going to want to encourage that. Countries like Brazil, not very likely, as they still would want to maintain the uniqueness of the BRICS, group. While Russia, is looking to accept some nations and others, for instance, not too keen on having France on because of France's perceived support of Ukraine in the Russia-Ukraine war and the like. So there are going to be conversations around that. Also on the agenda would be the National Development Bank, which some people tout as the BRICS Bank. And this is to pursue and to promote the use of local currency or indigenous currency amongst these nations for trade. So trade will also be on that conversation, and then they'll open up to friendly nations as well on the last day to have conversations, and perhaps that's where Nigeria will come in terms of speaking at the table. We'll definitely bring you updates from the BRICS Summit happening live in South Africa here on Horizon.